Coach, why don't you begin with an opening statement?
Yeah, glad to be here on Tuesday. Want to first start by sending my condolences to the family of Gary Klopper, known as Texas Tiger. I met him several times when we were down in our tours in the spring. He passed away unexpectedly last weekend, and so I want to send my thoughts and prayers to his family. Also want to thank Jack Foster for saving Peter Burns' life on Friday night. Apparently at their Friday night meeting, Peter started choking and it got pretty serious, and Jack stepped up to the plate and gave him the Heimlich maneuver, which ultimately led to the airway passage being opened up. I know our athletic trainers had to treat him on Friday night because it was such a serious incident, so appreciate Jack stepping up and being a hero when he was needed to be a hero. A quick recap of the game after watching the tape and really looking into it. Just want to say how impressed I was with Coach O'Brien and his football team, Boston College Eagles. That was a really good football team, a quality football team that was fundamentally sound in all three phases. I think he's done a tremendous job getting those guys to believe into their plan, and really impressed with the way they played and the way they stayed in the fight for all four quarters. They were certainly a worthy opponent. But for us offensively, there's a lot of things to correct, starting with a slow start, lack of execution in the red zone, having to kick 2 field goals and a punt in the first quarter, field goal, punt, field goal. Penalties. I've never seen 2nd and 59 again, and I hope to never see it again. That was incredible. We did have some positives, really good swing 10-0 right there that ultimately was the difference in the game. But our inability to put away the opponent in the third quarter to stretch that out to a 17-point lead is something that we have to do better. Obviously, the execution on the last 2 third downs of the game was critical in order for us to win, but missed opportunities throughout the game to be better. And so that's the focus for us this week. Defensively, slow start. 5 plays can get you beat on defense. If 10 people do the things right, but one messes up on 5 plays, you give up, explosive plays that get you beat. And ultimately, we had critical busts in critical situations that we have to fix, and whether that's coaching, whether that's personal responsibility from players, both sides, whatever it is, it has to get taken off the tape, and it has to get taken off the tape quickly. We played really well as a defensive unit for most of the game, but still gave up ultimately 3 touchdowns, and we're 1 drive away from suffering a defeat there. And then special teams, a slow start. Obviously, the first return opportunity we had, ball was tackled inside the 20, which can't happen. And then in the fourth quarter, a critical error on a shanked punt and a penalty, which ultimately resulted in only 23 yards of field position change. So those things got to get corrected. Obviously, really proud of Blake Craig and being the SEC Special Teams Player of the Week with his 4 field goals. Thought he really did some nice things, and it's for everybody, offensively, defensively, and special teams, some critical mistakes that got to get taken off the tape. This week we start SEC play, so everything is even more critical. We have a good challenge this week. Vandy, I think, has always been a very difficult out for us, except for during the COVID year. But 3 years ago it was had to win in the final drive of the 2 minutes. Played with a lead, but had to seal that game. 2 years ago, it came down to a 4th and 1, and they really forced a lot of turnover issues in that game against us. And then last year, were able to hit explosive plays and claw their way back into the game in the fourth quarter. So, a quality opponent. I think this is Clark's best team since he's been there. He's done a really nice job of building the transfer, or utilizing the transfer portal and still developing his players. He's got guys that have been there for a long time. I think DeRicky Wright being one of them. I think C.J. Taylor, the star, he's playing deep safety now, but he's one of the best defenders in our league and has consistently been that for the 3 years that we've gone against him. I know he'll be out in the first half because of the targeting penalty, but he is a really, really good player. Coach has done a really good job with his coaching hires. I think their offense is new and innovative and tough to defend. They utilize their quarterback Diego in a lot of different ways, and he gives them a chance on every play to be explosive. I think the tight end Eli Stowers is obviously a critical component to their offensive success and somebody that we have to be aware of. Defensively, Coach Lee's taken it over. He's running it, and he's been one of the best defensive coordinators in the country when he's done that with his work at Notre Dame and other places. So it's going to be a real challenge for us. And really it's not about our opponent, it's about us and our approach and how much better we can improve, how much more disciplined and consistent we can be in all three phases, in the ownership that we take of that. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
You talk about a slow start on offense. How has Brady grown and improved in that? I'm sure it's a conversation with you and Kirby and everybody else to work through those problems. Yeah,
I thought he had one of the best plays I've ever seen him make on the first third down of the game when we were running a five-man protection concept. They overloaded protection. Timmy Chang's it to the right and throws it back shoulder. So he didn't start slow. We had an explosive run the very next play. It's just once we got into the red zone, we had critical mistakes. So, those things got to get corrected. And whether it was schematically or one of the 11 players not doing their job, I don't think it was Brady.
I think it came into play on Saturday at the end of the first half. How does having the 2-minute stoppage kind of impact the way that you can manage the clock at the end of the half?
It's very significant. It's very significant in how you can utilize timeouts and kind of manipulate the clock and coaches into. You saw it last night in the NFL. You can manipulate people into having to, run certain plays or certain schemes. For them, we called the timeout after or before the third down to force them into a decision. They ultimately decided to throw the ball, which allowed us to save our timeouts, which ultimately, gave us the ability to kick a 50-something yard field goal. So it puts coaches in a really difficult decision and players in a decision to execute, and if they don't, they leave time on the clock, and that's what happened. There's a lot of analytics to it that you have to study, and you have to be in real time, be able to make those decisions on what you want to do.
If you look at how you guys were able to contain the run against Boston College last week, what do you carry into this week defensively to contain a quarterback like Diego?
Yeah, I think all three games have actually been good preparation for this opener in the SEC. Diego's a different style runner than Castellanos. He's more physical downhill, kind of has the old okey doke on his option stuff. Will lower his shoulder and take on defenders. So it's different, but then there's some schematic things that are similar. I think there was one of the first couple plays of the game, they ran a triple option scheme that shows up this week in the exact same formation. So I think there's some of that stuff that will carry. I don't think that our approach to pass rush will have to be the same. We do have to contain him. But ultimately, we look back at the plan. Maybe there were some more opportunities for us to try to create pressure.
Of the 30 passes that Brady threw on Saturday, I think 3 went 20 yards or more downfield. Is that a balance that you like? What kind of situational factors went into that?
How many throws did we have?
I think 30 passes.
We had 30, and 3 only went 20?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think back. We did create explosives in the past. Obviously Luther's and 2 to Mookie were explosive in nature. And then the rest, that's just kind of what the coverage dictated. We missed 2 verticals down the field, 1 to Lou and 1 to Theo, that ultimately, I think one, we just got to execute both sides, whether it's route, throw, catch, whatever, penalty, whatever you want to say there. But other than that, I think those are the 5. There wasn't anything on the tape that I'm sitting there thinking, well, they're playing really down on us. We have to do something different. So, yeah.
Craig had huge shoes to fill. Can you talk about the fact that
I think their shoe size is the same. Jersey sizes are different.
can you talk about what kind of confidence this SEC honor can give to someone like Blake?
Yeah, I mean, he's put in a lot of work. He's always been a really confident kid. He's always been confident in himself. And I think the players and coaches demonstrating confidence in him too. Like the question last week, were we concerned about him because he missed a couple of longer field goals? And the answer was no. We knew he would be able to make it when we needed. And I think that confidence, I mean, that was as well struck a 57, was it 57-yard field goal that I've seen. I mean, that thing went through the top of the upright. So he's got confidence, he's got plenty of leg, and his team believes in him. And that was a really big momentum swing for us. You could just tell the energy in the locker room was different because we were able to fight all the way back from a really poor first quarter to actually have control of the game going into halftime. So I think, Blake really did his job.
Yeah, following up on that, when you were recruiting Blake, what was it that you see that made him the one compared to all the other kickers you were recruiting?
Yeah, I actually went and watched him live. Again, his confidence, his ability to make it. He came here and worked out during our kicking camp and won competitions, and so ultimately that was, it's not just about the talent; it's about the mentality. Blake's one of our most consistent performers in the weight room. Even when he was working out with the Edge squad, he always was a guy that Coach Russell singled out and said was a leader and a good performer and had the right stuff about him, which is what you want out of that position.
Harrison was always, we'd ask him, hey, process and that kind of stuff. He was always really straightforward. Is Blake similar, different? What are some of the similarities and differences?
Similarities, it was the same hash that he kicked. Mavis kicked the 62-yarder, and I was thinking that in my mind, like, man, that's pretty ironic. These two guys kick it from the same hash. I think competitive spirit. Obviously, I don't think the moment gets too big for them. I think both of them kind of relish the opportunity for them to compete and bring value to the team. I think they're different personalities. Blake's a little bit larger of a personality than maybe Harrison. I don't spend a ton of time with him, Kickers are a little bit different. Just kidding. They're good dudes, man. Yeah, he's good. But I think you'll get to see. I think is he talking today? Yeah. So you'll get to see a little bit more of a feel for who he is. But yeah.
Eli, it looked like Jamal Roberts got a few reps. It's kind of a third down situation. What do you like about him in that role?
Yeah, he has the best understanding and grasp of protection with also the size that you need. He's got good hands out of the backfield. He's consistent, physical as a blocker. Obviously, somebody that we can throw the ball to or hand the ball to in those situations that we trust, and it takes a little bit off of Marcus and Nate's plate from a physicality standpoint, especially with teams who are going to, we knew that Boston College was going to blitz and then add green dogs on top of it, so we knew we needed a back in there who could hold up physically and try not to add extra contact to Nate.
Coach, with Brady, it seems like the ball's coming out time-wise a little bit quicker this year than last year. Is that something that was by design or a byproduct of anything, or what might be behind just a few tenths per pass attempt this year?
Some of it is by design, some of it's by play concept, some of it we've emphasized more quick game this year than we probably did last year. Some of it is just a better understanding and reading of defenses, so he knows he's processing the play faster and knows where his answers are faster. Like I think both throws to Mookie came out really quick just to protect him from the defensive danger, whether it be a corner falling off or the flat defender getting depth. And those things just happen based off experience and processing.
And then with the pass rush, it looks like last week on a few first downs you had 5 D linemen in there and brought in an extra D tackle to play the nose tackle there. What went into that look? Is that something that you might keep around with some of these mobile quarterbacks, or what went into that?
Yeah, that was a game plan decision based off 12 personnel. Was a heavy run personnel for them, and we felt like the most important thing for us was to control the A and B gaps and really not allow their center to be free to climb up to the second level, put the center and guard more in one-on-one blocks. So we went to a Rhino package. We hadn't shown that. We had hoped that it would create some confusion or an adjustment to their game plan. Also, it's in some of the zone read stuff, it allows your ends to be more contained players so the ball doesn't get out on the edge, where in a 4-down stuff, your ends typically need to be your chase player, so the quarterback then has the freedom to pull it. So that was more of a schematic situation. Each week it's depending on what we feel like we need to do in order to win the game. So I don't know if that'll be in the plan this week. You can create some of that same kind of stuff with the multiple fronts. We played some drop 8 into a 3-down front that's really the same style of scheme, but it's predicated more based on 11 or 10 pictures. So it just depends on if we feel like we need to do that. I thought Marquise really did a nice job coming in and playing the nose, which is what he primarily did in the game. As far as the pass rush, that was a design technique that we had. We really felt like if we could keep Thomas in the pocket and utilize our zone coverage, we felt like we could force him into a couple of mistakes, which ultimately we did. But I thought he did a really nice job of picking us apart too. We certainly have to be better in zone coverage moving forward.
How important has Christian Williams been in bringing in some of the new guys on the defensive line?
Yeah, I think for him it's just about he has a standard on how he operates and what he wants our defense to look like, and I think that's been the most impressive thing about our defense is that whether it's Chuck or Joe or Christian or Johnny, or even Drayden Norwood, they know and uphold the standard, and they expect everybody else to play to that standard, and they're not willing to lower it for anybody. And so I think when you have transfers come in, we're really not adapting to you. You're joining us, and this is how we do it here. And I think those guys have really done a nice job of this is how we do it here. And what happens is you see players perform at that standard. I think Zion Young has been playing at a really high level. I don't the stats don't always reflect it, but the 3rd and 10 before half, he's the one that tips the ball. They're throwing to a wide open wide receiver because we had another coverage bust, but he makes the play there. Corey Flagg has joined us and is playing at an elite level. Khalil Jacobs had a couple of TFLs or sacks, depending on what we call them. So it's not like those guys have joined our standard.
Sticking on that note with Chuck, what can you say about how he's embraced his role since he got here, what his personality has added to this team?
I think Chuck's exactly what we talk about when we talk about emotionally consistent. He's the same guy every day, doesn't get too high, too low. He's going to give you the very best that he has. He's going to prepare every week. He's going to play really well. He had a really big play in the first of the game, tipping the ball. It was almost intercepted. He's a consistent tackler. He's a downhill player. He's a guy who reinvented himself, transferred out of Wyoming, came here, bet on himself, didn't know if he was, we needed a linebacker at the time, and ultimately he didn't know if he was, where he would fit in, but he's stuck around. He's faced a lot of different injuries in his career, and he just continues to show up every day and go to work, and obviously elected captain, so he has the respect of his teammates, and he's consistent.
Coach, you all ran the ball for 6 yards per carry in the first half. Second half, you take out that run on 2nd and 59. It's under 3. Going back watching the tape, what were some of the reasons y'all maybe didn't have the same success running in the second half?
I think at least 5 of those runs came in the 4-minute situation at the end of the game. So, advertised runs, everybody knows what they're coming in. We're in a different situation. So, maybe that has to do with the stats. I don't think that we had any really schematic issues or not sustained issues. I know that there was a counter that we didn't really like in the fourth quarter. But I can't recall anything that I'm like, man, we just aren't doing our jobs, to be honest. We did have, on the 3rd and 4, we had an execution error. There you go. 3rd and 4, we had execution error. 1st and 10, we had execution error in run plays, so that's 2 of them. And then, the other two that were below average, which would have been around the 3, were the second in we had 1st and 10 counter, stunk. We had 2nd and 10 outside zone, stunk. Then we threw the ball to Luther. Then we came back and had a 7-yard run, or a 6-yard run, 2-yard run, and then got out the game. So obviously counter scheme wasn't good, poor execution, and I thought our guys fought through it. The time of possession was good for us, but man, I thought our offensive line maybe got a little bit tired there. So maybe work on making sure we're in the shape we need. It's going to show up Saturday. It's going to be a hot game Saturday. We're going to have our best performance from a nutrition standpoint.
Related to the offensive line, what would you think of pass protection on Saturday after getting a chance to watch it?
Yeah, we had some issues on 3rd down protections just based off of what our scheme was, and then what they did. They were bringing some overload zone pressures that we hadn't seen before, and it took us really until the second half to get it cleaned up. I think the sack is a combination of eyes by the quarterback, short set by the tackle, and inability by the tailback to recognize that he's getting beat and chip his way out. So that's really on all 3. And then I think we had the second third down of the game that was the punt. We had leakage on the inside. It was a 5 call. Guard got matched up, was too high, ended up getting leakage, hits the quarterback at his feet right when he's making a throw to the field, doesn't. So it's always going to be a tough issue. So we got to firm up the middle of the pocket. When we're in, when we have confusion about what we're doing in protection, we got to still be solid. We can't retreat from the line of scrimmage, and I think we were retreating a little bit too much, which was putting pressure in the quarterback's lap.
Now that you've had a chance to kind of look back at it, what kind of confidence does maybe your team's fight and, response to attitudes on the sideline, when you guys didn't start so fast as you would like? What kind of confidence does that give you going forward?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing we can build off from the game is our team faced adversity, didn't have the best start that we needed to in any of the 3 phases, but we still found a way to compete, didn't turn on each other, found a way to compete and win, and really I didn't think played our best ball in the 4th quarter either, but offensively when the game was on the line, we executed on critical downs in order to win. So those are building blocks that says you have it in you. Now it's just about being more consistent. So I think that's the biggest key. And believe me, yesterday I challenged our staff and our players, put your feelings in a box. Like, don't come into this team room and thinking we're going to celebrate and party based off the film, because that's not going to be it. We're going to challenge each other in here, because the lack of discipline is a result of the lack of accountability, and there's going to be accountability. I mean, no different than they caught me on tape getting on Luther between the 3rd and 4th quarter. He deserved every bit of that. And he understood it. I mean, he looked me right in the eye and said, "Yes, sir." And just like yesterday when we addressed it, he understood. Selfish penalties cannot happen. The team's mission is way more important than anybody's individual hurt feelings. So put your feelings in a box, put your big boy pants on, and take accountability for the things that we have to improve on.
Coach, and Nate Noel's recruitment, what was the first thing that sparked your interest in him, and how do you evaluate his performance so far?
Yeah, Nate's obviously a uniquely talented player. Always the biggest concern when you recruit somebody from a different division or Group of 5, Division 2, whatever, is how are they going to adjust to the speed of the game. So we watched the North Carolina game, we watched the Texas A&M game, and the explosiveness that he shows on film, his ability to read the inside or the outside zone, his ball skills out of the backfield were all exactly what we wanted it to be on tape. And then I think when he got here, his desire to be a positive contribution to the team. And he's done a really good job down there with Coach Russell and Coach Liz and Zach and taking care of his body. Each year at App State, he was always a little bit beat up, wasn't as durable as he would like to be. He's really worked on his durability, his nutritional habits, and his practice habits.
You mentioned the one tight end stores, but they've really rotated 2-3 tight ends throughout the season so far. A lot of 12 personnel, a lot of pistol. How does that make it even more difficult with their pressure packages you were talking about? And how does that also help them kind of disguise and run the passing together?
Yeah, they utilize a lot of unbalanced formations, and the easiest way to create unbalanced formations is to 12 personnel. But traditionally, when the ball is going to get thrown, he's looking for number 9. So we have to understand that, you know, if we have him in man or he's in our zone, we need to cover him because the quarterback's looking for him. You know, multi-use tight ends is an important part of any offense if that's what you believe in, especially more for them because you can try to dictate the fronts that you want in order to run the ball the way you want to with what they're doing.
Any other questions? Thank you, Coach.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.